Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'm reading your stories, your true creepy experiences. Thank you so much for your submissions. Grab your flashlight and let's step into the darkness together. Number 1. I was never a believer. I didn't believe in ghosts or in paranormal stories. And of course, I didn't believe in God. The only things that I could believe was what I saw with my own eyes, and sometimes even that I didn't either. With that being said, I still don't, at least for the most part. But after what happened the last month, I tried to be more open-minded and not that cocky bastard who pretended to know everything. So here's my story. I live alone, and believe me, I know how this sounds. Like every fucking weird story starts with a guy or a girl that lives alone. Anyway, that's the case, so deal with it. My house isn't anything special, but you could say it's quite big for just one person. Assume that it might not be the most organized house you have seen in your life, so you get the idea without me going in more details. It was just another ordinary day. Waking up, going to work, thinking how much I hate my life and all this stuff. All ordinary until the night. I'm there on my sofa, watching some stupid show in the television until I get really sleepy to go to my bedroom. When that time comes, I walk to the front door and make sure that I have locked it. Then I go straight to my bed. I set up the alarm on my phone for the morning and close the lights. All my house falls in deep darkness since I turn off every device that produces even the slightest light. I can't fall asleep otherwise. All safe and nice. I go dreaming very quick because I can't remember producing a lot of thoughts as I was laying down. However, a few hours later, the weirdest shit ever happened to me. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I assume it was in the middle of the night because that's around when I always wake up to, only to realize that it's still too early and fall asleep again. But not that night. That night my ears picked a weird sound coming from the kitchen, and my brain automatically switched from sleeping mode and wouldn't let me sleep. I had to check. I had to know that everything was just in my imagination and no one was in my house. I stretched my arm to turn on the switch because I couldn't see anything. I finally managed to find it by touching the wall around it, but the light wouldn't turn on. Maybe a power outage, I thought. Immediately I stretched my arm the other way toward the little desk that I always leave my phone on. My phone isn't there. I must have been frozen there with my palm feeling the table for over 2 minutes. But my phone was nowhere to be found. That scared the crap out of me. The weird noise wouldn't stop, and it seemed like it was coming closer. It is my imagination, I thought at first. I was at absolute panic as I started to sweat at the middle of the freaking December. My heart was beating so hard, like it was about to jump out of my chest. I tried to not move a muscle because I didn't want to make any sound. I thought that someone has broken into my house, and now he was getting closer and closer to me. But if I couldn't see him, how could he see me, right? There wasn't any flashlights. It was just pitch black. As the sound was getting closer, I came to realize that this was like someone was moaning. For what weird reason would a burglar moan? The moaning got in front of my bedroom door, just a few feet away from my bed. For 5 seconds, it stood there and then faded. Shortly after, the power came back. There was no one in the house except me. I jumped from my bed, grabbed something heavy that I can't even recall what it was, and I ran into my living room, trying to scare my burglar. There was no one in the house except me. I triple-checked all the windows and the door. Everything was locked. I went back to my room, and there was my phone on top of the little desk, in the exact place that I have left it as I was setting up the alarm. Was it all in my imagination? Maybe. Maybe I let the panic get to me, and just for 5 minutes I had lost my mind. I have spent 1 month trying to convince myself that this might be the case, but the 5 flashlights under my pillow reveal that so far I have failed to do so. Number 2. When I was younger, I used to live in a trailer park in the desert of California. My brother was in the other room, and I was in the living room. I was looking out of the living room window, and I opened it because it was too hot inside. I noticed a huge and very tall, what it seemed to be an animal of some sort. As I was looking, I noticed that it was dragging a woman, and I felt that I was in danger, but I couldn't stop looking. It turned and hit the woman to silence her, but she wasn't making any noise. She seemed to be screaming and kicking, but there was no sound coming from her. I turned away from the window, and I ran to my brother for help. He had the most terrified look I have ever seen on his face. He told me to close the window and lock it while he locks the doors, and he told me not to look at it again. So I ran to the window to close it, and as I was locking it, I did the most stupid thing. I looked at it. He seemed to look at me like he knew I was going to look at him first. It dropped the woman, and it seemed to glitch to me, and it happened so fast. It ran towards me and grabbed my arm. I felt paralyzed and I couldn't scream, but I felt myself being dragged out of the window. I felt that I was about to hit the ground when my brother grabbed my leg before I was completely out. He was screaming for the thing to have mercy and let me go. I felt like I was in another world. It let me go, and as I was crawling to the ground, my brother dragged me back through the window, and I was screaming and crying. It walked and glitched to the woman who was trying to get away. The thing grabbed her leg and dragged her to the edge of the desert. It looked back to me, and I swear on everything, I felt that it smiled at me, like it was giving me a promise that it will come back for me. Number 3. This story is 100% true and takes place in 2004 while I was in basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia for infantry training. My company had just begun their field training exercise, which takes place towards the end of our advanced individualized training phase. It was the first night of our field training exercise. Our drill instructors pretty much had us implementing all the skills that we had learned so far in a mock combat environment. We were also run through tactical operations against other platoons from our same company. Anyways, like I said, it was the evening of the first day. I and my battle buddy, or teammate, we will call him Ted, were watching our sector from our improvised foxhole. It's pretty much a V-shaped dug out that you can lay low in and or slip in while watching a sector. We were trying to pass the time by whispering to each other, talking about what we would be doing once we got back home on leave. Our family, girlfriends. It was about 10 p.m. around this time. There was a sliver of the moon showing and a clear sky. It was also damn cold out, in February no less. So there we are shivering, laying in the ground, fighting to stay awake, when our subject gets to how creepy the woods are. From our position, we were up in a bit of a hill, with a small clearing in front of us about 15 feet or so. After that, it was nothing but trees and dark. Even with a small amount of light from the moon, we could hardly see 10 feet in front of us. We start talking about our favorite scary movies and creepy stories that happened to us when we were younger. This goes on for a good hour or so, until we can hardly stay awake anymore. I am fighting to keep my eyes open at this point, when I began to hear Ted snoring. I was so damn tired, and before I knew it, I must have fallen asleep. I had no idea how long I had been asleep, when I was suddenly woken up by someone saying my name. Johnson, Johnson, hey Johnson, wake up. I hear before I am suddenly jolted awake, thinking it was my drill sergeant about to yell at me for some reason. I jump to my feet, fumbling with my rifle in hand. I see a dark figure a few feet in front of me. My eyes focus for a second, and it's Ted. What the hell, man? I whisper, but with concern, thinking something is wrong. I need to take a piss, man. Come with me. Ted asks quietly, so quiet I can barely hear him. What? I exclaim, whispering. Man, you scared the shit out of me. To help you to go to the bathroom? I exclaim. I'm freaked out from earlier, man. It's creepy out here. Ted says. Dude, then go right there. I whisper. Come on, please. Just watch my back while I go over here. Ted waves his arm out towards the trees. As Ted points with his arm, I didn't realize this until afterwards, that his arm didn't move right. It seemed overly forced, like when you see a puppet's arm moved by a marionette. I begrudgingly say okay, and walk behind him as we enter the tree line. The moment I walked down from our position, I noticed that a layer of fog, or like a mist, had begun to form on the ground. Okay, go man, it's far enough, I whispered to Ted, just a few feet into the trees. No, he answers in a monotone voice. I don't want anyone to see, he continues. I watch him march slowly deeper into the woods. This at the time didn't seem that odd to me, because Ted had always been the chicken and easily afraid between the two of us. So I continue to walk behind Ted about another 30 feet or so into the tree line before I demand, all right, go dude, it's far enough. No one can see you junk from here, sissy. No, Ted says again. Just a little bit further. I'm scared. When Ted says it this time, it sounds like he is struggling to speak and like it's staticky. And he continues to walk deeper into the woods. I see the back of his head slam forward and his left arm starts twitching. What the hell are you doing, man? Stop messing around and just go already, I demand to him. I get no reply from the figure oddly walking away from me. Whatever, man. This is too weird. Just find a tree and pee already. I'm going back. I stammer out as I start walking backward while watching him. I'm beginning to freak out just a little bit, and my alarm bells are going off. The harder I stare at him, and the further away I get, the stranger Ted appears to look. Like when static in your TV is disrupting the picture, so you can't quite make out the object. I decide I have enough and turn around to double time it back to the foxhole. I had only been about 25 feet away at this point. The hairs in the back of my neck start to stand on, and I can swear I feel something right behind me. I dive back into my position. When I dove in, I landed on someone who begins to yell at me. What the hell are you doing, Johnson? The person underneath me says as he throws me off of him. I look up, and it's freaking Ted, standing over me, weapon in hand, pissed off for landing on him. What? I stammer out, staring up at him like I have seen a ghost. I hurry to my feet, looking at Ted, and then to the forest, and then again at Ted, saying, But you were in... I can't even finish. I'm so lost for words. At this point, Ted interrupts, punching me in the arm. That's for landing your knee in my back, you dick, he says, beginning to get back into his side of the foxhole. I am at loss for words at this point. I'm staring at Ted, shaking and beginning to pour a cold sweat as I start turning in all directions, looking for another person from our platoon to jump out, saying it was all a big joke or something. But nothing. Just a dead silence now, almost no noise. Ted begins to snore again, easily going back to sleep. I eventually take my place next to him, thinking over and over in my mind what had just happened. Was I dreaming? I began to calm down after about 30 minutes or so, looking again ahead to the tree line, and then looking again at Ted's ugly, snoring mug. All of a sudden, I hear a horribly monstrous voice whispering in my ear, I'm afraid. I turn my head to the trees, just as I catch a glimpse of something running off through the trees and off into the wilderness. I told no one about this for years, mostly because of how tired and worn out I was during this incident. I chose to think that I dreamt the whole thing. It was an easier truth to swallow than telling people I saw something that was my teammate trying to lure me off into the woods for God knows what reason. It didn't sound very good. Only recently have I told people of this story, because I'm sure that what happened was real. I'm just thankful to God that I didn't follow that thing deeper into the woods that night. Hey there, thank you so much for listening. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for submitting your stories. If you are new to my channel and you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. And if you like my videos, subscribe to my channel for more. And if you have any story that you want me to narrate, submit them to my email, which you can find in the description. And I will see you all in my next video.